Should Caleb Williams have been the number one overall pick in this year's NFL draft? We will answer that question and many more as we welcome you back to the Section 101 podcast. This time, the NFL Draft Recap. Today, I am joined by
David Blaser.
And as usual, Ben Lau Schwartz.
And Ronnie Decker.
All right, so a very interesting NFL draft. 150,000 people packing the city of Detroit. Great crowd for them. They've been a great football city throughout this year. Before we start, shout out to my fellow wrestling guy, Tony Khan, for wearing the neck brace. A lot of positive publicity there for AEW. He got Meltzer drivered by the Young Bucks, and he was wearing that neck brace, and there was a lot of news around it. So thank you for that, Tony. And now let's get into the draft. The Chicago Bears with the number one overall pick, they went boring. They picked Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, this was the obvious pick from the beginning. I think the Bears knew going into the draft they were going to take Caleb Williams. It's been known for a little bit while. Most of the mocks had him at number one. I see him as kind of an Andrew Luck kind of pick. He's a big guy. He can throw the ball around, and he made some pretty good decisions at his time at USC. Hopefully he can be a good quarterback for the Bears. But overall, I see this as a A-grade pick. They made the right choice, in my opinion. But we'll just have to see how he pans out.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Ronnie on this one. Very obvious pick for me. As an obvious Packers fan, I think that the Bears are going to suck. But I have to give Caleb Williams credit here. He's a really, really good quarterback. And the Bears made some great moves this offseason, going for the wide receivers. I like their chances this year. I'm having a good feeling for the Bears. Hopefully finish mid-table this year.
And they're keeping up with this NFC North that's looking like one of the top divisions in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the NFC North this year is stacked right now. We got great quarterbacks stretched across the board. Great teams for sure. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. I mean, really, this division can make a huge push towards playoff season next year.
Allow me to become myself and give you guys some stats. So, I do think Jayden Daniels is the number one overall quarterback in this class.
I agree.
I think that for the Bears, they also should have drafted Jayden Daniels, and I think the Commanders got a great pick. Here are the Heisman splits. So in his Heisman year, Jayden Daniels had 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he threw for 3,800 yards. In his Heisman year, Caleb Williams threw for just 30 touchdowns, had 5 interceptions, and 3,600 yards. Passer ratings for those are also alarmingly different. Jayden Daniels had a 208 passer rating in his Heisman year, and the passer rating in his Heisman year for Caleb Williams was a 170. You can see the splits. USC this year started out at number 9. They were ranked number 9 because of Caleb Williams.
Yes.
What did he do? He underperformed all season. Jayden Daniels, while he also dropped from 4 to 12, had a phenomenal year, one of the best statistical years in college football recent history, but it flew under the radar because LSU didn't have the pieces to keep up with him. Jayden Daniels, I think, is the undisputed best quarterback in this class. I do think Caleb Williams is the obvious pick, but do we always have to be obvious in sports?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good analysis by you, Ben. I do think that Jayden Daniels could have made a pick or made a push, for the number one spot, but I feel like the Bears are just kind of set with Caleb Williams with his previous Heisman season, and now this season, everybody had such huge expectations for him this year, and that one game against Notre Dame, man, it really killed him. It killed USC. I mean, they dropped a lot of spots, but he was staying consistent on his passing and his ability to improve and throw, right? Jayden Daniels, he's been a consistent on-the-rise player since he got into college, right? LSU didn't have the amount of amount of players to perform this year, but they still had a solid shot. I liked where they ended up ranking, so I feel like Jayden Daniels could have gone number 1 this year.
Just one thing to point out about those stat splits is Caleb Williams did not have the weapons that Jayden Daniels have. Obviously, Jayden Daniels had Malik Neighbors, who I believe is the best receiver in this draft class, is the second best receiver in this draft class, but only behind Harrison. He had a better coach, in my opinion, a better defense. Williams' team kind of just let him down this year. I think he is a great pick. I do think Daniels at number 2 to Washington is one of the better picks of the draft. It was the obvious one for them as well. but I think he's going to end up being the better quarterback as we go through throughout the future. My comp for him is a Lamar Jackson type player. He's very mobile, but he can also sling the rock very well.
I think he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson, and they have very similar running games. I I think that this trade between the Bears and Panthers is going to be so pivotal in maybe NFL history. This Bryce Young for Caleb Williams trade. If one of them goes on to be like an all-timer, which one of them has the potential to be, do we say that the Bears or Carolina made the wrong decision? I think we do.
I would agree with that. Both of these players have really, really good potential. I mean, last year we had such high expectations for Bryce Young coming out of college, and he really underperformed for us. But also, the Panthers, not a great team when you put a young quarterback on the rise, especially a rookie who's not really with a great team, not a lot of good weapons to work with. It's kind of hard for him to get on, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so with the number 2 pick, as we've kind of been talking about already, Jayden Daniels goes to the Commanders. The Commanders don't have much going for them, but this is maybe the start of something great. I see this being a Trevor Lawrence-type move, get a great quarterback on a bad team. Hopefully the Commanders can start to create something around Jayden Daniels. I think he's a franchise quarterback.
Yes, I would agree for sure. I mean, the Commanders have always been an up-and-down team. I mean, when they had Alex Smith back in the late 2020s, he was a really good player, but he kind of fell off. And I feel like Jayden Daniels, if he finds his groove, gets a nice little start going at Washington, that he could be one of those Alex Smith-type players for Washington.
Yeah, I think, like I already said, I think Jayden Daniels is a dog. It's going to be a brand new system over there in Washington. They got a new coach, they got a new owner, and now a new quarterback. Hopefully they can get some weapons to surround him in the second and third rounds, because they didn't draft any. They didn't have any other picks other than the number 2 overall pick in the first.
Yeah, they did, and I think that's an advantage for the Bears that they had those 2 picks and used those 2 picks tremendously. With the number 3 overall pick, Drake May went to New England. I think Drake May has tremendous upside if you put him in the right organization, and I think it is what they did with the Patriots drafting him. I really like a typical system quarterback. He throws the ball. He's not as mobile as some of these other quarterbacks we're seeing, but the upside on Drake May, I think the untapped potential on Drake May, because of where he was in college and his situation there, is more than any other quarterback in this draft. Like, he might not be the best right now, but the upside is there for a guy like Drake May.
For sure. I think this was a little bit of a reach for the Patriots here. It's really tough for them. I think Drake May is a great prospect, and he has the potential to be great, but I see him almost as a Zach Wilson, where if it's not perfect, he's going to fall. He's going to fall under the pressure as well. It's a tough situation for the Patriots here because this class of quarterbacks is pretty deep, pretty substantial, and next year there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are coming out. So this was the year that they had to do it and make a push, hopefully start a new future for them with Belichick leaving. I don't really know. I don't see how this pick is going to work out, really. I just don't like what he's going to be able to do in his rookie season without any serious weapons.
2 words before David goes. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Ronnie here. I don't think that Drake May is going to be a great quarterback. I either see him as being like not a Tom Brady, but slightly below a Tom Brady, or he's going to be a major bust, right?
Yeah.
There's either 2 options for where he can go. Rookie year, as long as he finds his groove, he has some good potential. But this is where the team organization of the Patriots comes into play, right? They got to make some moves. They got to start getting him some good receivers. They got to start building a nice offensive line for him, right? You need to protect him. Drake May has incredible arm strength. We saw that all throughout his college career, right? He has incredible arm strength. He's really tough in the pocket. Yet, if the offensive line can't hold up and he needs to scramble, that's going to be an issue because that's not his style of play.
Yeah, I think the top 3 quarterbacks are the top 3 picks in this draft.
Everyone had that as their top 3. I feel like this is what was going to happen from the start.
You know, I actually had Michael Penix Jr. going to the Patriots.
That's just wrong. I'm sorry.
I thought he had potential.
Yeah, potential, but we'll talk about that abysmal pick later. So, with the number 4 overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals selected Marvin Harrison, the best wide receiver I think we've seen in years come out of college. Played in a great program, He's got the speed with Kyler Murray, a guy who isn't the best quarterback, but his plays are when he throws the ball down the field. I think Marvin Harrison's perfect for that. And I think for a team in the Cardinals that can build around a guy like Harrison, it's a good pick.
Yeah, I like this pick from the Cardinals. They had a disappointing year last year after that Kyler Murray injury. It was really hard for them to get going. Marvin Harrison, I mean, who else to compare him to but his dad? He's got the footwork. He's got the body awareness. He showed in college he can just go out there and make the play. Not much to say here. He's an elite prospect. They can work it out with him, and they got a decent quarterback in Kyler Murray over there in Arizona. It's gonna be magical.
Yeah, I like this pick by the Cardinals. Very smart move for them. They don't have a lot of great players at wide receiver, also because they heavily focus on Kyler Murray. He's like their star quarterback. He can scramble, he can throw, he can do a little bit of everything, right? Marvin Harris Jr. is a great addition because he can catch the ball, he has speed, and he's a tough physical player. I can see him being an A.J. Green, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. He's a great prospect. He has a lot of potential to grow, and I think this Cardinals organization can help him develop and really grow into a solid player for the Cardinals.
For sure.
Yeah, and in a draft where it was so offense heavy, wide receivers, quarterbacks, not a lot of running backs, an offensive tackle is selected at number 5, breaking all Tennessee Titans fans' hearts. Joe Alt is the newest Los Angeles Charger. To me, I've heard people saying it's a reach. It's not a reach. When you got Harbaugh there, you're going to run the ball a lot. You're going to use Austin Eckler, try to make him into the guy we all know he can be. And by getting this kind of solid, probably the best offensive lineman we've had in a long time, I think it's a really smart pick.
Well, first of all, Eckler's now on the Commanders.
Oh, God.
You're good, Ben. But I agree with that pick. I feel like this was the spot where I had a trade. I had the Vikings moving up here. They ended up getting the guy that I think they should have selected eventually, which is very good for them. They didn't have to give up as much capital. But Joe Alt, he's an elite prospect. He's an elite offensive lineman. He's got the long arms. He's going to throw you around. He's just a bullier. He's 6'9", 321 pounds. He is a huge boy. He is an amazing player, and I feel like he's going to really help this Chargers O-line to keep Justin Herbert healthy.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Chargers definitely needed this pick. This was a good pick for the Chargers. They have a lot of different players on their offensive line, and they haven't really found their rhythm yet. I think Joe Alt, and maybe if they pick up a second or third rounder for an offensive line, 2 young starters who have great potential, I think that they can build a solid offensive line and can solve a little bit of their issues there. And I hope this is a good season for the Chargers, man. Getting Jim Harbaugh, pretty good pick.
Yeah, that's my bad. Gus Edwards is the Chargers running back, a guy who also has tremendous potential.
Sure.
We saw that in his time with Baltimore, in a run-heavy offense there as well with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So I think that works out for both. With the number 6 pick, the New York Giants, this is I think where Michael Penix could have gone.
Oof.
Definitely, for sure.
Daniel Jones is
I don't
not a
like that.
franchise quarterback. You can never convince me of that. And you drafted, in my opinion, not even the best wide receiver on the board in Malik Neighbors. I do think Romeo Dunze is better, and I think this is it's a pretty bad pick for New York, in my opinion. Could have gotten a quarterback, didn't do that. Could have gotten a better wide receiver, in my opinion. But I just don't see where this franchise is going.
Yeah.
For me, this is my pick of the draft, honestly, of the first round. This is an excellent pick from the Giants. I've heard around the league that the Giants did not have enough faith in J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, or in Michael Penix Jr. to take either 3 of them. They made the right pick, in my opinion. They got a weapon for Daniel Jones, and that's the only thing that's been holding him back so far.
You're telling me Daniel Jones is better than J.J.
Okay.
McCarthy, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix?
Yes, I am.
No,
I am. Okay,
come
look at this.
No
Look at
chance,
this.
buddy.
Those guys
No
have had
chance.
amazing receivers their entire career. McCarthy's had all the weapons in the world. Penix had Odunze, and Bo Nix didn't really have a lot at Oregon, but he was pretty good. I don't see why not. Daniel Jones, his best weapon his entire career has been Kenny Galladay. What has Kenny Galladay done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Kenny Galladay has been horrible for this team. They needed to get a young receiver and help build around Daniel Jones. They got to give him another year. I think if the Giants suck this year and they're horrible, they're going to go for the number 1 pick.
I mean, I'm gonna split here. I do think that Malik Neighbors was a smart choice, but Romeo Odunze, in my opinion, is definitely the better wide receiver. He had a better time at Washington. He was more developed, had more weapons. He was very powerful there, right? And then, you know, I don't feel comfortable with the Bears drafting him. I feel like that the Giants made a mistake with Malik Neighbors, and they should have gone with Romeo Oduze. You know, Malik Neighbors, really good prospect at LSU, but I don't know how he's going to shape up in the draft. I mean, Daniel Jones is the big problem here, you know. That is not a good, stable quarterback. And to have a good offense, you need a solid quarterback, somebody who can lead. Daniel Jones cannot do that.
And even like if we say he's been injured so much.
Yeah.
He's injured a lot.
The turf monster.
But you can get another quarterback that can really just a fresh start is what I think this franchise needs, and by just sticking with Daniel Jones, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I have a feeling maybe later in the draft we might see Giants get a little low rounder QB, maybe just a little prospect to pick them back up a little bit. Who knows?
Someone like a Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt.
I like that, Spencer Rattler. Yeah. So, as I said, Tennessee Titans fans' hearts were broken when Joe Alt went with the 5th pick, and they got J.C. Latham with the 7th offensive tackle. The team needs a lot. I mean, they don't have Derrick Henry anymore, so
that is definitely.
This team is dead in the water anyway. Talk about it. Yeah.
They didn't even get the best guy on the board. I thought Olu Fashanu was for sure going here to Tennessee. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this pick. For me, it's a B. I mean, Latham is a very good offensive lineman, but he wasn't the right pick for them. They needed to get a better offensive lineman if they're going to take O-line. And like you said, Joe Alt was the guy that everyone had going there. I think he would have been that's his best fit right now. But J.C. Latham, hopefully he can learn under this run-heavy offense, and we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, I do not agree with the Titans pick here with J.C. Latham. I don't think he should have gone as high as he did. I don't feel like he's the right fit for this Tennessee offense, right?
They could have traded down and gotten him. They could have traded down to 9 or 10.
He's a big guy, right? But I don't feel like he's going to have the power in that tough AFC conference to sustain that run-heavy offense, right? When you have a run-heavy offense, you need a lot of big blockers. He is kind of in a little gray zone there. He's a big guy, not a lot of power there. He let some defenders slip by him a couple times in his college career, and it kind of cost him, you know?
Yeah, so we talk about the Titans, right? You got Will Levis and Tony Pollard at the head of the offense. You have DeAndre Hopkins. There's just so many ways this team could improve. It's almost impossible for them to make the greatest pick. And we talk about a team that's dead in the water in the Titans versus a team with the number 8 overall pick in the Falcons that I thought had tremendous potential this year. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. If you use Bijan Robinson right, he's great. Kirk Cousins, and they pick Michael Penix. What the hell are we doing here? Don't try and create Jordan Love using Kirk Cousins as a substitute for Aaron Rodgers. That makes no sense. This team had Romeo Dunze in the palm of their hands. They could have had three wide receivers with tremendous upside for Kirk Cousins to play with, and a running back in Bijan Robinson, who has great potential as well. And they end up picking Michael Penix. I don't even get this.
Yeah, I think this was a wasted pick by the Falcons. No sense at all, right? Even at quarterback, they have Taylor Heinicke, not a great one, but you have Kirk Cousins as your starter. You just signed him to a massive deal this offseason. Why would you go up and pick a rookie quarterback? It makes no sense. Their wide receiver and running core, stacked. If they got Romeo Oduze, that would have been the most dominating offense in the NFC. I still think that the Falcons have a solid offense right now, but that pick by the organization, I don't know where it was going.
Yeah, I thought they needed to trade down here because I think they should have taken Dallas Turner, the edge rusher out of Alabama. Ultimately, the Vikings got him at 17, but I felt like this was for sure a defensive first pick. I see what they're trying to go for, like Ben said, going for a Jordan Love-esque draft pick. But yeah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, a little bit of a talent difference there.
Yeah, and I think this is a Falcons team that with that pick tells me they're lacking in identity. They don't know if they want to go in on defense, and they're apprehensive to get another offensive weapon. It's that team is just lost with that pick. Speaking of a team that is not lost, the Chicago Bears this year, out of
Yes.
nowhere, have a team last year that had a very good run. Get Justin Fields out of there. Welcome Caleb Williams in. They trade for Keenan Allen. They still have DJ Moore. And now they get Romeo Dunze at number 9. Talk about a pick that just magically fell to them. This is a great pick by the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I like this pick out of them. They are going to have a ton of weapons coming out of that offense next year. Obviously, they have Keenan Allen. They got DJ Moore, now Odunze, who I think is a serious slot threat this year.
And DeAndre Swift at running back.
And DeAndre Swift at running back. This offense is going to be insane. I don't know a lot about their offensive line. I've talked to one of my friends, Peter Driscoll. He says it's pretty solid. He's a huge Bears fan, so I trust him. But honestly, I don't know what's going on here. I think they could have gone with probably a defensive player, honestly. Odunze is going to have to learn under Allen and DJ Moore, and hopefully he can break out.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree the Romeo Odunze pick was definitely smart. Very smart move by the Chicago's Bear front office. It adds to their wide receiver core, which they need. They already have great weapons, but that third weapon in Romeo Odunze, solid pick. They also have 2 solid running backs, as you mentioned earlier. The defensive pick that they could have gone for one, that addition of Montez Sweat earlier was definitely very good. But I feel like maybe later in the draft, they might need to take a defensive player. It could start being a smart move. This Bear team is looking dangerous, man.
Yeah, they truly are. And you talk about a competitive NFC North, and it's very competitive right now. And the Minnesota Vikings got from the New York Jets a quarterback that I think fits perfectly with their team. Talk about a guy that plays like Kirk Cousins. J.J. McCarthy plays very similar to Kirk Cousins. I don't know if you would have necessarily had to trade up to get him because I don't see the Jets taking J.J. McCarthy, but it's a good pick for Minnesota nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, they got their guy for the future. I feel like he's going to be pretty solid for them. Honestly, I mean, they had to fill that quarterback spot, but I don't like it as much as, like you said, they could have stayed where they were, but they gave up draft capital to go up one more pick. I don't know. I'm not loving J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. He seems a lot like Mac Jones for me, a guy who is carried through his career by an amazing team and an amazing system in Michigan. And for Mac Jones, it was Alabama.
He was coached well, at least. That's what gives
He
me
was
some trust.
well,
Yes.
but so
very
is
well.
Jones. Jones was coached by the greatest coach in NFL history, in my opinion, Nick Saban. I mean, I don't really know what's going on. I think it's a solid pick. It might end up working out, but he just doesn't seem like a guy for the future.
Yeah, I do agree. This is a solid pick for the Vikings. Don't really understand the move to trade up, though. The Jets don't need a quarterback, right? They have Aaron Rodgers. He's old, but he still has a lot of time left, right? I do not understand why they did this. J.J. McCarthy, though, definitely a solid pick. They need a quarterback letting go of Kirk Cousins. They have talent on that offense. And J.J. McCarthy, he was the golden child at Michigan, right? He can really develop and grow in that system.
Yeah, I talked earlier about Drake May having upside. I think it goes the same way for J.J. McCarthy with tremendous upside. And the New York Jets, in this odd trade with Minnesota, decided they did not want Aaron Rodgers getting sacked and breaking whatever the heck he broke in the fourth play of the season. So they got an offensive lineman, Olu Fashanu from Penn State. I think this is a good pick. New York's always needed an offensive line, and you need an offensive line around Rodgers because he doesn't run a lot. He's always in the pocket, so you need good offensive linemen around him. I think this is a good pick by them.
Yeah, you look at their offseason. I mean, they got Tyron Smith, who was the best offensive lineman available, and now they draft Olu Fashanu, who I think was the second best offensive lineman in the draft, only behind Alt. It's clear what their mission is. They're trying to protect Rodgers, and they've got to if they want to have a winning season this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're really building up that offensive line. Not as much the offensive weapons, though. I feel like they're very centralizing around Rodgers. They're listening to what he wants and what he wants to do. They need to get that offensive line. This pick with Olu Fashanu, great pick by the Jets, helps build up their line, creates a strong, solid line for them.
Yeah, so I think you look at this whole swap. I don't see how the Jets lose anything from this, but I see Minnesota losing a little bit. Um, at number 12, Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos. This team is in an identity crisis right now. You've got a guy in Zach Wilson and a guy in Bo Nix. It's just a mid quarterback and mid quarterback number 2. I don't see this team doing much this year, but again, a quarterback with some upside and potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of pressured into doing it. After Knicks, it's Spencer Rattler, and that's a pretty substantial drop off. I don't really. They didn't really have a choice. They kind of had to take a quarterback here. I would have liked to see Zach Wilson given a year just to do it without any pressure, see if he could perform and be their franchise quarterback. But I think they're just kind of rushing into things with Bo Nix, and I don't really like him as a prospect. Honestly, he's not one of my favorite guys. He looks like he could be a Dak Prescott if everything goes right, but I don't, especially with the Broncos franchise, I don't see everything going right.
Yeah, I agree with Ronnie's point there. I mean, Zach Wilson and now you're drafting Bo Nix. I feel like you're fighting for the top spot for week 1 starting quarterback right here. Bo Nix doesn't have a lot of power on his arm, but he can improvise. That's what he's good at. That's what he did at Oregon. That's what he did at Auburn, right? Very smart move here. I feel like that this could either be, just like Drake May, it could be a really good pick or it could be a bust, right?
Yeah, I think they probably should have traded down to go and get him as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the Broncos, not the best offensive team, not the worst defensive team. They have some weapons that Bo Nix and Zach Wilson can work with here.
That's the thing. We're not talking about a starting quarterback for them. We're talking about 2, and that's an identity crisis right there that team cannot afford. And poor Brock Bowers. I mean, talk about a guy who did everything he could at Georgia, played phenomenally, and now you end up on Vegas, a team that I mean, Aiden O'Connell's your quarterback. What are we doing here?
Yeah,
Could have gotten something at least a little better. Like Brock Bowers, such a good player, and now he's in a bad place. So hopefully this doesn't hurt his career because he is one of the best tight ends we've seen in a while.
this just seemed like a rushed pick to me. I don't think the Raiders put a lot of thinking into it. And we know the Raiders are one of the worst drafting franchises in history. But, I mean, they drafted Michael Mayer last year in the first round, and they signed Harrison Bryant this year, both pretty solid tight ends. We still have yet to see what Mayer can do in the NFL, but Bowers, he's a great prospect. He's probably a top 12, top 15 prospect overall in this draft, and he's going to get paid a lot of money. I don't see the point here. I mean, you're not ready to win now. Brock Bowers is a win now guy. He's not going to be there for a long time. I would have liked to see him go to somewhere like the Colts, and I think that was their plan before he got taken.
Yeah, I'm definitely questioning the pick here by the Raiders. The loss of Josh Jacobs this year, they need a little bit at running. Brock Bowers, even though he's a tight end, he has proven throughout his college career, especially at Georgia, that you can put him wherever and he will succeed. Wide receiver, running back, tight end. He can line up. He can run. He is a solid physical player, and I think that physicality will help this Raiders offense. I don't see it going anywhere, though. They have Devontae Adams. They have a lot of good wide receivers, but it's just
You're missing a quarterback.
yeah, they need that central role, right? The quarterback is essential to everything. They kind of have the Jets here. They're going through an identity crisis with quarterback. They just need to find some stability, and maybe Brock Bowers can bring that.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints, another team that in a competitive NFC South could have gone anywhere. They got Tyrese Fuaga, an offensive tackle. I mean, Alvin Kamara continues to get injured. I don't really see the value in this pick, but I do think that it can go places if this team does commit to the bit and continues to surround this offense with some weapons. But there weren't really any other wide receivers I would have drafted up for, but it's what they could have done.
Yeah, with the Ramczyk injury to the Saints, they kind of were forced into taking an offensive lineman. I didn't really like the pick personally. I think they could have gone in a different direction, but they didn't really have a big choice. They really don't have any good tackles right now, so I see where they were going for it. I would have liked to seen them go somewhere like a Byron Murphy or a Dallas Turner, really partner him up with Cam Jordan and have him learn under him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see lots to analyze on this pick here. I think it was just a solid pick. the Saints need to help build up that offensive line. Although you have the issue with Calvin Kamara, really he can't find his groove. He keeps on getting hurt, keeps on getting stunted back, and maybe this addition on offensive line helps them get a little strength, finds their groove this year, and I feel like Saints have potential to be a good team in the NFC South this year.
Yeah, and then NFC South is competitive. You have potential there, have a solid team in the middling division. And with the final pick we'll be looking over today, 15th pick, the Indianapolis Colts selected Laiatu Latu, an edge out of UCLA, a team that also is an identity crisis. We're getting to the point in the draft. There's a lot of teams that are on the verge of being great, but don't have everything to do it. It's a solid pick that helps them out, and I think Laiatu Latu is at UCLA, a team that you don't really hear much from. He was a standout.
Yeah, for sure. I liked Latu in this draft. I wish they would have gone with Dallas Turner, though. He's someone who I saw as a top 5, top 10 potential guy. He looked really good at Alabama, and he's really explosive off the line. I would have liked to see them take him, but Latu's a very good edge rusher. So hopefully he can be good for that team. I like the Colts too. He's got really good pass rush skills, but it's about staying on the field for him. He's had some injury concerns in these past few years at UCLA, but I don't know. We'll have to see what he does there.
Yeah, I like the pick with Leatu here. He has a lot of potential, right? I actually, in my mock draft, I had him going to the Bears for the 9th pick. I feel like that with him in that Bears defense, he could have made an explosive start. Same here at the Colts. The Colts have a solid defense. He will definitely have a really good start to his career. He just has to find that groove, grow and develop, which the Colts are very, very good at. And, yeah, he has a lot of potential here.
Yeah, so in terms of this draft, I think it pretty much went as expected. There was some teams that won, some teams that lost, as you would expect. I think we do find some hidden gems in round 2 and 3, but those are to come. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this episode of Section 101. We will see you next time.